So, this is going to be a fun fanfiction idea for the holidays. I figured I haven't really done, like, a lot of Christmas fanfiction ideas this season. So I figured I'd change that with a very Skaven Christmas. Yep, you read that right. So let's get into it. So the story begins in the old world, where the Great Horn Rat has made direct contact with the Council of 13, and he has come with a great message. He's come with a very powerful message, and the Council of 13 are like, well, what do you desire? What do you desire? Like, what do you want? What do you want desire, my god? You know, our Great Horn Rat. And the Great Horn Rat tells them that for too long, there has been an antithesis to him that has been bringing joy and love and compassion and everything else that the Great Horn Rat stands against in another world, and it's time for his children to put an end to it and bring only desperation and despair to the world. And this enemy's name is Santa Claus. And they're like, Santa Claus? Never heard listen of that. What is that? And they explains like Santa Claus is like this being who's jolly and joyful and willingly gives presents to people. And the Council of 13 are like, and he doesn't expect anything to in return. And they're like, no, nothing. So I want the entire Skaven I want the entire Council of 13 to unleash unrepentant hell and destroy the workshop of Santa Claus once and for all. And they're like, okay, why specifically the workshop? And the Great Horn Rat explains that like the workshop is the source of their power. You know, is the source of Santa's power. Like, it can basically build whatever is desired. So they're like, okay, cool. We destroy that. We kill Christmas once and for all. That sounds like an easy plan right there. So the Skaven assemble an army and go through a Nard hole, which does wipe out about a good chunk of their enemies. I mean, their forces, excuse me. And then they end up in the North Pole. But however, the North Pole, like, the Skaven think that it's going to be like a walk in the park. It's just going to be like, it's a fat, jolly guy. He's got some elves. We'll wreck house. Like, it'll be fine. However, what they didn't expect on was the North Pole's outer perimeter security being triggered, and of course, the elves are the elf scouting parties are, you know, doing recon, and they see that that there are Skaven. However, they do run into members of Clan Eshin who do kill several of them, but they manage to send word back that the naughtiest race has finally come to the North Pole. Of course, Santa is ready and locked and loaded to fight them, because he always knew the naughtiest ones would come. Eventually, the Great Horn Rat would send his army of naughtiness to the North Pole. If you think I'm being serious at any point of this story, I think we figured out that I'm not. Anyway, so Klaus, Santa Claus, rallies his army. He rallies the entirety of the North Pole under one banner. He summons all of them, like he's invoking ancient rites and all that. He assembles the elves to arm themselves. He gets reindeer for them to ride on. He summons the ancient snow titans of the far north, which are gigantic, just frost golems. Then you have the beasts of the north, like the polar bears and, you know, other forces. He even is like, Mrs. Claus is like, you know, even with all of this, Chris, we can't fight the army of the Skaven. We will need allies. And he's like, I know, I invoke the ancient rites to call upon others. And he calls upon Krampus. He calls upon his dark shadow Krampus in order to get extra help. And Krampus agrees to this because he's like, if there's no Mary, then there is no punishment. So Krampus sends his dark forces to ally with them. So from there, the Skaven invade, and it goes about as well as you think, because this is the Skaven we're talking about. So the Skaven are trying to think of all these kind of plans. They're trying to send forces to dig underground to this to fight the forces of the North Pole, but they keep digging the wrong way. Also, there's other points where they're trying to set charges, but the charges explode, or they just overcharge the warp stone and just blow themselves up and blame each other for it. So, yeah. Other times they decide to send in siege equipment with warp cannons, but the warp cannons keep overcharging and exploding because they're like, we're gonna blow them to shit and just overcharge them. Doesn't work. Also, it doesn't help that, Christmas magic is also is using a massive dome to protect the North Pole. But the Skaven are undeterred and continue to lay siege. The rat ogres begin to pound on the field, only to battle the snow titans. You have Queek Headtaker and his Vermigard trying to break through the wall, only to run into highly skilled elven warriors. You have Ikit Claw trying to use mad science to try to break through the shield, only to kill a good 600 Skaven. It's during this entire siege that Santa's like, wow, I took them as threats? I feel sorry for them. I thought this was gonna be harder. I legit thought that this was gonna be an all-out war, but they're just kind of hurting themselves more than anything else. I feel kind of bad for them. However, among all this, you have another element in here. Clan Pestilence steps in, and Clan Pestilence, with Lord Skrulk leading the charge, you have him unleashing a plague that is actually affecting the elves and the other beings of in the North Pole. But Mrs. Claus is a great healer and comes up with a medicine that works real fast. That medicine, chicken noodle soup and hot cocoa. Yeah, I'm not being serious with this story at all if you guys haven't picked up on it yet. But yeah, so the Skaven are now doing what Skaven do best, which is get angry and blame each other for it. So the Council of 13 is just no, it's your fault, no, it's all your fault. But they believe the only way to stop Santa is to the only way to get into to stop Christmas from coming, because that's the end goal, is to stop Christmas, is to kill. You cut off the head of the snake and the body will die. So they send Deathmaster Skrit in to have him sneak in there and attack Santa, which he does. The Deathmaster and Santa do battle, but the Deathmaster is sent packing back to back to the Council of 13 with a bunch of coal stuffed in his mouth. This leads them to go to the Council of 13 to go to the one person who probably has the best shot of breaking that barrier and leading the charge into the North Pole. Unfortunately, he's a fucking idiot at the same time, that being Thanquol. So Thanquol, the sorcerer that he is, rails just a shit ton of warp stone and unleashes a massive warp storm over the portal with the help of Greyseers who are dying left and right to destroy the barrier. Once through, the Skaven launch of absolute Vermintide onto the North Pole, which fights valiantly in an almost Helm's Deep-esque battle. But the Vermintide is endless, and they keep breaking through. However, this is Lord Thanquol we're talking about, and Thanquol's magic also caused a rift that a warp storm that just proceeded to wreck house on the Skaven. And as we all know, when Thanquol fails, everyone else suffers the consequences other than Thanquol. So the Skaven army is just decimated by the warp storm, and forcing the Skaven to retreat. However, by the end of it, the Skaven are just take candy canes. Yes. So they've literally stolen all the candy canes from Santa, and they consider that they claim victory if you're stealing candy canes. which are actually, like, and the worst part is it's the candy canes that didn't meet inspection and also were laced with cyanide. So it goes about as well as you think. So there you go, guys. That is a very Skaven Christmas. I want to thank everyone and have a happy holidays and all that, and hope you all enjoyed this. Other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the multiverse.